His and her movie reviews. The Martian comes out October 2nd. This movie makes you want to learn useful stuff. Also, it makes you want to learn not useful stuff. Because Matt Damon, his character is really smart. He's a botanist. And extremely positive and inspiring because he's in such a crappy situation. When he deals with setbacks, it's actually inspiring for me to deal with setbacks at work.
I liked how logical everyone was. They would come across problems or they'd have disagreements and people were very logical and there was an obvious hierarchy, and I really liked that. And there was no, like, bad guy.
Other than Mars.
Other than Mars. The environment was enough of a challenge in the movie that you didn't need anyone else to be bad. And so there wasn't anyone who you were like, oh, I hate him, he's a jerk. Walking out of the movie theater, I felt really good. It wasn't a downer. The humor wasn't slapstick. It was more the kind of humor you would have in everyday life.
There was one slapstick part. It was on Earth. You'll have to watch for it. But it was the only humor in the whole movie where I was like, it felt a little bit contrived. But everything else, there was people were laughing out loud a lot in the movie.
A lot of it was just because of the wittiness of it, and I really enjoyed how smart the humor was.
As far as the look of the movie goes, the special effects were amazing. I thought they were near perfect. There was a few parts. One part where he was breathing and it was cold, where his breath smoke looked a little bit CG to me. Then another part where one of the little rover cars looked CG and fake. But everything else looked super real and awesome. I guess some of the weather, the Mars weather in the background looked kind of cartoony. But other than that, like near perfect, all the space shots, all the Mars stuff. I was expecting a lot of like Utah, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona type footage of Mars just tinted. But it actually never felt like that. It actually felt like all the NASA pictures of Mars that you see. So I totally felt like we were on Mars every time. Also, there was a storm scene that you see in the preview, and it just looked exactly how the storm in Prometheus looks. I think he probably used the exact same stuff to do it, which is good because that storm looks really good.
Acting in this movie was excellent. Matt Damon did a really good job. I also enjoyed how well written the screenplay was. You were not spoon-fed anything. It felt like it was very smart, and they weren't just like, here, stupid audience. They let you figure things out. A lot of the story was actually told through facial expressions, and they didn't tell you anything. You had to watch and figure it out, and I enjoyed that a lot of the story was shown to you instead of told to you.
Cinematography was really good. The only time that it kind of took me out of the movie was there was like at least one that I noticed, one handheld shot inside of his little laboratory that he lives in, and it just took me out of it because I'm like, oh, that's a guy standing there filming him, because it was a little bit shaky. But other than that, he felt really alone, and that was like 3 seconds maybe, but I noticed it. We saw it in a theater with Dolby Atmos. The sound was amazing. It was totally immersive. The sound effects were really good. All the dialogue was really clear to hear, and it was awesome to have the speakers above you as well as on the sides and behind you. So if you can see it in Atmos, I would recommend that. Also, we saw it in 2D, which I'm glad for. I hear 3D is good, but I didn't really want to be cross-eyed the whole time. But the acting was really good, but Sean Bean's randomly in it, and that took me out of the movie for a second. When he turns around, it's like, Sean Bean! I was like, Sean Bean, he's gonna die. So it took me out for a second, but then his acting is so good that you believe he was the character after the initial shock of, holy crap, it's Sean Bean. And there was also a Lord of the Rings reference, which you should watch for, because it's awesome.
It was funny. I enjoyed the science in the movie. I thought that it was well done. I'm not a botanist and I'm not a physicist, so I couldn't tell you if it was accurate or not, but it did seem like he was going about solving a lot of his problems very smart. I liked how he was using his science to solve the problems that he had.
Yes, he MacGyvered the crap out of a lot of stuff. Just random things here. There's no end credit scene, so if you want to just hurry and get out of there, you'll be fine. Although I like to stay and read obscure names and listen to the music and see if Samuel Jackson's going to be there to invite him into the Avengers. It was rated PG-13. There's 2 F words in it, and then a handful of other implied F words, if you're concerned about that. And then there's rear male nudity, just for, maybe about 5 seconds. He's just walking. It's nothing too intense. Families could go see this, and honestly, I think a lot of families will like it because it's inspiring and it's a good movie. But there's, at the very beginning, when he gets stuck on Mars, spoiler alert, he's has an injury that might be a little bit graphic to some, but I really didn't think it was that bad. There's a little bit, some blood, but squeamish people might not be able to handle that. The set design was amazing. It felt very science-y. It also felt like it was inspired by actual NASA stuff, but also by others. Classic sci-fi movies like 2001: Space Odyssey with the rotating thing, but times 10 in awesomeness. So it's like they took that cool ship from that movie and just made a way cooler ship at the Hermes.
There were a few things that did seem very rushed, very skimmed over. It was a book. I know that when you take a book and turn it into a movie, you cannot include everything. There were whole chunks of time that you just had to imagine maybe what was going on, and it was just too much for you to include in a. I mean, the movie was 2.5 hours long, and even then there were parts that you felt very rushed. So that would probably be my biggest critique about it. Overall, the story was really tight. It was very well done.
So would you want it to be like 3.5 hours long?
No.
It was long enough?
It was long enough. The movie, 2.5 hours was long enough.
I could definitely watch it again. I'll probably own it just because I love sci-fi movies. I love Mars movies. And it was really good and actually inspiring and interesting to watch.
I normally do not like movies like this, but because of the main character's positive attitude and because of the humor that was thrown in, I felt that it was very well balanced. Yes, it was stressful, and yes, I really felt for the character, but at the same time, you felt that he was doing everything that he could, and he wasn't just going to wait to die, and I really enjoyed his tenacity and his perseverance and his attitude. It made the whole movie very uplifting instead of like, oh my gosh, now what's going to happen to him? And I really liked that about it.
So I'm happy we saw it. So you should see it in a good theater with good sound. That's my summation.
I thought it was a very well put together movie. I liked it. I probably would never put it in and watch it by myself, but if someone else was watching it and I walked in on him, I would probably sit down and highly enjoy it.
This has been his and her movie reviews for The Martian.
Thanks for watching.